might not know, Hillary Clinton will be here on Wednesday to talk about her highly anticipated book, What Happened?
What happened?
But excerpts have already leaked out, and she's kind of blaming Bernie for doing last-minute damage to the campaign. And here's what Bernie said about it on Stephen Colbert last night.
We need her help to go forward. Let's not keep arguing about 2016. Let's get together, take on Trump's desire to divide us up. Let's go forward with a progressive agenda. Ask her if she'll do that.
Well,
yeah, I love it. He didn't take the bait. And I have to say, I applaud him for that.
I love
just
Bernie,
moving
but
the conversation forward.
Yeah, but I love Bernie, but why is he telling a woman to be quiet? I don't like that.
He's not telling her to be quiet. He's telling her to look forward.
That's what he's saying.
Oh, no, come on.
He's saying move on and, and stop bitching.
What he's saying is...
You know what? She won the election by 3 million votes. She has a right to bitch.
She didn't win the election. No, I'm sorry. She's implying from the excerpts I've seen that he stole her ideas, basically, that they had the same ideas and he just went and he put it up a notch and he went a little further. That's not true. They were two very different candidates. She's picking on him and he's answering and saying, you know what? This election is over, but the country has a future, and what happened in the past happened in the past. Now let's come together. Let's work on policy. Let's get things in order.
She will after
every
she
right
sells
to
her
do
book.
that.
But I also let the woman sell
why
her
does
book.
You know what? Let her take some responsibility then and say, I lost this election because of me. Stop blaming
That's
Obama. Stop blaming everybody else.
She did.
Yeah, but
she does.
What I would say is the timing of this is clearly linked to the book, and when you read it, which I'm only in the beginning parts, but it's a catharsis for her, and she's still a leading Democrat. Like people look to her. She was going to be the first female president. Her history in politics is
she would have been a really good president.
You can't even argue with it.
You can't argue with
that.
So
I think the part that I'm seeing is. In general, this conversation is not productive because the election's over. But I think the timing of it is due to a book, and it's due to what she's addressing in this book. And I think people are kind of pulling out the fodder. But I agree with Bernie. I don't think it's helpful with the movement.
It's not helpful, and I think go ahead, Whoopi.
Well, I'm just going to say it's kind of funny, when everybody said, hey, let's move on and go with the future. Bernie wasn't interested in doing that at the time. So she's not the president. She's not the president. But let's be realistic. Do you really think she was going to win? Based on everything that the Democrats did when they left him out there floating in the flotsam and jetsam, and all the stuff that Fox News did and all those folks, there have been very few 8 years of one party and 8 years of the same party.
Yeah.
It doesn't generally go back to back. You don't have, last time I think was Nixon, and whoever came in after him was the last, Ford, and he pardoned. That was the last time we had a long stretch when it wasn't Democrat, Republican, Democrat, Republican. So given all the crap that Obama had to sort of eat from his own party, I don't think I don't think Bernie was going to, I don't think any Democrat was going to win. I think people were going to vote.
It was the greatest upset in political
But she
history.
did win. But she did win.
She didn't win, though.
Okay, she didn't win the Electoral College. But your argument is that you couldn't, that's not what happened.
I believe that was not going to happen. And the truth of the matter is, if this election happened in any other country the way it happened here, we would have sent people to go and check to see what was going on. We will never know. We'll never know.
But don't
we'll
forget,
never know.
But the things that we do know are that Comey released, this information about her 2 weeks or a week before the election. That was very detrimental to her campaign. And everybody who was on the fence said, well, and they're saying crooked Hillary. And they're saying, oh, yeah, crooked Hillary. And then he confirms it in a way. And he says nothing about the fact that Trump is under investigation for the Russian connection. Then you have the Russians interfering with our election. There was so many things that went against her that I think she has every right to write a book and speak about it. It's American. It's patriotic. And it's in the interest of the country.
She has a right to
lay it out.
in the interest of the country, but I think at some point you also have to take responsibility. And I think if she would just say, you know what, I lost fair and square, instead of, I think people have a problem that
she did lose fair and square.
But here's the thing, there's nothing more. When I tell my kids, when they play a game, I'm like, you are gracious in victory and you're gracious in defeat. There's nothing more annoying than when you start to blame everybody else. You need to take some responsibility for what you did on the field.
But your children are not playing on a game field where the parents are coming and hitting the ball for them. And they say we want. So that's my simple point is this. Had this election happened anywhere else the way it did, we as America would have gone in to check to see that all the checks and balances. We'll never know what happened, and now is the time for her to say, "This is how I feel about what went on, and I don't like that this happened, and this is how I feel, and this is how it felt to me. This is how I see it," and she has the right to do that.
Can I just say one thing about what you said before about the election? I actually think Democrats could have won that election. I think if President Obama had been allowed to run a third term, I think he would have won that election. I think Joe Biden might have won that election. However, she had flaws. She had flaws not only in her ability to be a good candidate, but she had a flawed record as Secretary of State. She had the whole email scandal that came out. There were problems with her that weren't related to Democrats. That were about her.
It's not the point. Part of everything that happens in an election, your party has a lot to do with it. You know, so when your own party, when the Democrats decided they weren't going to back Obama and they were going to leave him out there, the message that was sent was that we're flawed and our stuff doesn't work as well. So when you're putting that message out there, and you have something like Fox News and all the other stuff, and every news place is putting this guy up, you know, and people are saying, well, yeah, the Democrats, we've had 8 years of the Democrats. Forget that when they came in, it was from a bad 8-year policy, and we started anew.
Let's not forget misogyny played a big role in this. This country refuses to put a woman in power.
I think one question that I would put out to all of you guys, which I found interesting, is the Clinton campaign also mentioned that the media was a problem. That in the time leading up to it, that the coverage was unfair.
New York Times.
Yeah, but when I watch the media, I can understand when someone that supports Trump says, "Hey, you guys live in a bubble. Look at the headlines." I'm kind of like, okay, I see some of that. But I thought the coverage of Hillary was just, this is the news of the day. This is what's going on. I didn't feel it was thrown in anyone's face. So how do you get it right?
Well,
because if the right doesn't like what the media is doing, the left doesn't like it.
They didn't report on it. She would come out there with policy. She's wonky. This is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to do. This is realistic. Bernie was out there promising free education for everybody. You can see that the Republican Congress was not about to give him that. She knew that. She's a policy wonk. Meanwhile, this guy, Trump, is all over the place with his hats and his dog whistles and Make America Great Again, which he stole from Ronald Reagan. But my point is that they didn't cover her as well as they covered him.
It's not
because
so much
he's more interesting in that way. Let's face it.
Yeah, he is.
Joy, you also forget, though, that the DNC actively tried to take out Bernie. Emails leaked that showed that the DNC had Hillary Clinton's back. If she's now on writing in her book, she has a right to write whatever book she wants, but if she's going after Bernie, he has a right to come back and say, no, that's not how it went down. This is what I was about.
So they all have a right to speak.
But the problem is it puts the conversation backward, not forward. That's all I'm saying.
I was just going to answer your question, Sarah. And I don't necessarily think that it was unfair coverage or the stories that were covered, but I think the media, and I am a member of the media, as we all are, we just covered him a lot more. It was more concentrated. It was like 80% Trump and 20% everything.
All
the
time.
More
sensationalist.
It's fun to watch.
He's a headline.
He's a train wreck is what he is. Also, one more point. I think that Joe Biden would have had trouble, too, because the Russians and their fake news would be interfering
Joe
with him,
Biden is a very charming guy. I would not underestimate him.
But look at your history. Look at the history of elections. It goes 8 years Republicans, 8 years Democrats. That's what we've done. That's how it's gone.
People want
and
change.
So people want change, whether it's good for us or not. Now, I think, you know, I believe that had Jeb Bush turned around and said, what'd you say about my wife and my sons? Because, you know, my family is Mexican. What did you say? If he had done that, we wouldn't be having this discussion. We'd be having a different discussion. You know,
that's possible.
Oh, sorry. We got to go. We'll be right back.
Senator Sanders, guns and gun violence in our country has become one of our nation's biggest problems. Hillary Clinton has argued repeatedly that you are out of step with what progressive voters feel about gun control. Vermont has some of the most lax gun laws in our country, and you have voted against the Brady bill. You did support allowing riders to bring guns in checked bags onto Amtrak trains. If you become president, what will you do about guns in our nation?
Let me just say about Amtrak. Right now, if you wanted to take a gun on an airplane and you checked it, you could do that. So there's nothing, that is not a controversial issue, I think. But here's the view. Here's the point. I resent people saying that I am out of touch In 1988, I ran for the United States Congress from Vermont, okay? The gun people were against me because in 1988, I said I did not think it appropriate that we should be selling assault weapons in this country. I lost that election by 3 points, okay? I have consistently fought for instant background checks because at the end of the day, what we want is to keep guns out of the hands of people who should not have them, people with criminal backgrounds, people who are mentally unstable. I have fought that. I want to work with President Obama to expand that right now. I am strongly supportive of doing away what we call the gun show loophole, which means that you could avoid the instant background check through the internet or a gun show, and you could buy a gun legally without having to go through the instant background check. So I think I am very much in tune with where the American people are in gun safety.
I want to just ask you.
And by the way, I have a D- voting record from the NRA. That should say something.